recommendation for approval. But when the individual indicated that it was his intent to close this in, then it's no longer a shade structure then. It becomes a room. It becomes a part of the structure. In addition to having started this without a building permit, it was very clear the statement by the owner to the Planning and Zoning Commission was the intent to close this in.
Make a motion to go with the planning and zoning recommendation for tonight.
We have a motion to,
Wait. So the only,
Yes, sir.
and what, how can he enclose this shade? I mean, is he going to enclose it? Did he say he was going to enclose it with tin? Or is he said he was going to enclose it because what I see here is that he has his cars underneath. I understand, you know, what, and you need, I don't know this individual, but what I see is that he's enclosing to protect these cars. And I see here some nice looking cars. I mean, I was waiting for wanting to enclose it completely. You know, I mean, if he's gonna make it a living quarters, now that's a different story. But to me, it doesn't look here like he's got a pipe, you know, 2-inch pipe with 3-inch vertical pipe. I don't think you can make a livable room with this type of structure. I mean, I don't know if you all know that, you know, because he's using pipe. He's not using what I would consider building materials to build a permanent, you know, room to move into.
Is he here? Matt?
Yeah.
Is he here, the gentleman? No?
At the time of the presentation, he expressed the necessity of avoiding the rocks and things thrown to inside this proposed shape. And the only way to avoid it, he was mentioning that, was to close it.
To enclose the shape.
Proposed shape. By doing that, the only obstacle you might have, number one, is the construction. Obviously, that this structure needs to be sufficiently sound to support the construction. And the most important is they're not going to be compliant with the setback. So that was the main concern.
And the setback would be what, to move the front part of this pipe 2 or 3 feet further in?
25 feet.
Further in?
Yes. I mean, 15 feet, this is our foot.
Oh, my.
Mayor,
Go
ask a
ahead.
question? Mayor? Did he express his original intent was to enclose this construction?
He was mentioning at the time of
Okay, so he now, not being able to do that, he's backing into an open carport, which is the reason why the planning and zoning department denied it.
and we have a motion on the floor to deny. We have a second. Seconded by Mary Garcia. Mary Garcia?
Yes.
Joy Rodriguez? Jessica Ganda?
Yes.
Okay. Item number 15 is not approved. Moving on to number 16, discussion and action on reconsideration of proposed rezoning of tract 1A-41 and 1A-44, Lake Clark Survey 293, from unclassified zoning to N-1 light industrial. Mayor, we have a speaker on for this item. That'll be Mr. Bobby Maloney. Mr. Maloney, you have 3 minutes, sir.
Thank you. First of all, Mr. Maloney, let me ask you a couple of questions. I want to ask you some questions. Is this property next to the one that, is this the property that you all wanted to do the tire shop at?
Yes, sir.
Is this the property that's next door to the county property?
I don't know.
In other words, you own all of those pieces of property, right?
I don't know what
You were trying to put that tire shop on the side of Socorro.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you also own the other side that's on the county. Am I correct?
Where the
No, that's yours and not this, right?
No, that's ours.
That's yours also. Because the reason I'm asking, because the last time that this proposal came on, apparently you were trying to build inside the city of Socorro, but you also own the land next door. Am I
Yeah,
correct?
well, behind it, I guess.
You had some property adjourning to this property that is in Socorro, and part of it was in the county, am I correct?
All of it's in Socorro.
All of it is in Socorro?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay.
This is-
And Mayor Gomez is correct, last time you were led to believe that you owned more property than you actually did, so.
That's the property.
But what Mayor Gomez was making reference to is, at the last meeting, we were led to believe that you owned that piece of property.
No, sir. No, sir.
That was a clarification.
Yes, that's what I wanted to.
Okay. No, we do not own that. Well, look, right there where we want to put the tires up, we tried to get it rezoned, and I believe the planning commission approved it. And we talked to someone, and he was telling us that we needed to get a plan. I got an engineer to draw up a plan, of what we plan to do there, to get it approved. I have a plan here I'd like to show you.
Go ahead and show it here. And also show it, have you seen it already? Go ahead and show it to the council members, so they're the ones that do the things that they show.
My engineer had to go to, we know about this one yesterday. We had one of This is basically what he screwed up, is trying to do, trying to get it zoned, use it as a
If you can do me a favor and do your presentation while they pass the map down.
Go ahead and do your presentation, that's all I have. So, see if you can approve of this.
Yeah, no, this is, basically, it's probably the old use that we used for, and that's what we wanted to give the proper zoning for. At the time when we bought the property, we were under, something that it was already that was.
Right, we didn't, yeah, we
We only bought it from, I mean, it's other.
I just sympathize with you guys.
Well, there's a tire shop on it now, but they've been, they've already been told that they can no longer exist as a tire shop, so.
Because it's not.
Not operating now?
Yes, they're there. They were operating, and then we didn't know that so he tried to get it rezoned, the tenant, and it was approved by the planning commission, I think. And then you all, I believe, I wasn't here, the tenant was talking to y'all, and I believe it was denied by y'all. But now we asked Mr. Mahoney what we had to do. We got an engineer to draw up a plan, this is what we plan to do, to get it zoned, so we can get some use out of it.
Have you received any citations for running this business?
Me personally, no, but I believe that I did receive one. I heard this yesterday when I was talking to Mr. Bernard, that he
Is that
received
true?
some.
The reason why I ask is that, yes, the planning and zoning does pick up the issue, their recommendation, and the final decision comes to the council.
Right.
I can see where this makes sense in the area it's located. It just, I passed by it the other day, and if you're going to do what you say here, then I can see it being a well thought out development. Right now, as you know, it looks literally like somebody went through 40 tires on a once vacant piece of land, and somebody's working on it there. I see here you have an office building scheduled, and you've got some aesthetic, design with trees, and will this be all gravel? Will this be?
All gravel.
Yeah.
Oh,
And then we have a
asphalt
parking
type
area.
or-
Well, gravel like sod, is what they call it?
Chat.
Chat.
4-inch chat.
Question. The venue that we had united the first time, do you know why the name used to be?
I do not, I didn't, you know, I didn't know what it used. They were operating there already, and then I signed, papers where he could come and try to get it rezoned, and he did, and then he all, and I don't know why he stayed operating there. He hasn't paid me any rent since it's been denied. But too much behind, so I, you know, I have no control of it.
That's a great asset there.
So, and I told him I was gonna try to come to committee and try to get it, approved. Excuse me? Well, he has a lease with me as a land for, you know, after we do that project, he's probably gonna stay there, or we're gonna get somebody in there that will properly, you know, maintain the property.
Here's the deal for me is that, we like to have good business owners in the city. We like to have owners that are gonna take care of the community, that are gonna respect the laws of the community. When it got denied and we assumed it was you all, you're now letting us know that it was a tenant of yours, they just went and opened shop anyways and basically did respect the laws of the city. It brings some concern to the city that, you know, will this tire company, if it doesn't have any respect for the laws of the city, will this be the company that goes and throws its X6 tires in the canals? You know, will this be the company that throws its oil into the groundwater? You know, all these questions come up about what type of business are we going to allow into the city if we were to deny it and they continue to operate. So at least that was my concern. Before you all stepped in.
But if we get it rezoned, if we get it zoned, we could lease it to somebody, you know, that will respect the property.
And I think he would too. I think he really is intending to move if it doesn't get rezoned. He just is waiting there and he's not paying any rent. He's really not, he's just existing, pending what you all
So he
decide.
has no lease, or he doesn't?
He has a lease, but he's not paying any rent.
Until, when is that, when the term expires?
Yeah, I didn't bring the lease with us. I think he has like a 3-year lease, I believe, but, you know, but we have to do all these, he has a land lease, we have to do these improvements, at least we, you know, we have to build that into his lease and charge him more money for it, so he may or may not stay there after we do the improvements, you know. I don't know, you know, but he does have a lease on it, but he intends to move.
If he doesn't get the refund.
If he doesn't get, I believe, even if he gets the rezoning, I believe he intends to move, but I'm not positive. I think he'll end up moving because of the improvements is gonna raise his rent, he's not gonna want it.
Do you have any intentions of evicting him? Or are you just gonna wait for him for, did zoning keep them?
Well, yeah, I do have intentions of evicting him, but I figure if he's operating illegally right there, that you all are gonna be evicting him, you know, so I was trying to get it rezoned. Once we get it rezoned, then we're gonna discuss it with him. Yeah, we're gonna evict him. You can't pay the taxes and stay in business without paying rent.
Well, I mean, I've
But
already
he's
done
not-
it. I mean,
Well, we
what
haven't
is
done it
there?
because he's waiting for the zoning. To see if we get it
He
rezoned.
has his lease, and he's claiming that he has a lease that we,
He was paying his rent until he got denied.
yeah, and he's kind of blaming us for not telling him that it wasn't
And we
zoned.
didn't realize it was.
Which, you know,
I don't know, it doesn't make me very, I don't feel very comfortable approving it if we can't have either force a lease or evict them. I mean, to me, it sounds that if you're just letting him go as is, I don't have a whole lot of faith in your.
Well, we're trying to get it rezoned. Once we get it rezoned, then we're gonna enforce a lease perfect. But we have to have the zoning first to be able to elect them or to enforce the lease. I mean, right now, we really can't operate there. And we can't enforce the lease, we can't, I mean, he was operating there and he was paying the rent. So,
When did you begin operating?
excuse me?
When did you begin operating?
Do you know?
No, you signed the contract.
Yeah, you know, it's hard to tell you, Mr. Bentham, because we had the property next door, and he was operating from the property next door, and then he moved in that property.
What, if, an estimation, I know you don't have an exact date, but, because that was, as you can see from that map, that's always been a clean piece of property. And if you drive by it now, it's got tons of just tires strewn around it. When did the first tire go on that piece of property, approximately?
What was he saying?
The first one?
Tire, when did they first operate?
Oh, well, let's see. See, he was operating on this piece back in, probably in September.
Did you see how clean those properties are?
Yes,
And
sir.
when you walk there right now, that property, literally, it's got about, 40 plus tires on it, and they're not like managed anyway, they're literally just kind of thrown on the property.
Yes, if you remember, when I bought that property, I spent like about $6,000 cleaning it up. There was weeds,
I mean, there was tires piled up all.
there was tires piled up all
Well,
over.
yeah, if I don't maintain my property within 4 months, it's gonna have weeds, but as you can see from the aerial, it's been maintained.
Yeah, we cleaned that up. It wasn't that way when we bought it.
How long have you owned it?
Since January of, I bought it in December of, 9 or 10, whatever.
Of 9.
It's been about 14 months.
Was it out in the market?
Yes. Yes, sir, it was,
It was the old Rudy property. The old
it used to be a.
remember Rudy, that
Yeah.
Sam Rudy?
And who do you know that he doesn't know?
Never saw that property, never saw it for sale.
Oh, there's a huge.
I never saw it, I passed there every day.
For about 8 months, it was good. Yes,
Yeah.
sir. Yes, sir. I mean, the sign was in front of the RV park, and then the property,
The next to Sam?
Yeah, right here.
Harvey's?
Right here.
This is the RV park where the trees are next to that, right there where the red dot is. The sign was right there in front of the tree. I mean, it was there for quite a while. Excuse me? He missed it.
Never saw it.
You can still buy it.
Still buy it.
Oh, yeah, I can figure that, guys. Yeah.
But, we can do, if we have to evict them, get them rezoned, we can do that, or we have to, we need to get some kind of, we'd like to get some kind of zoning on it so we can do something with it.
Well, I think,
What guarantee would we have that he's not going to do that or worse? Even if it's
Well,
what assurance can this council have that you all will implement some type of,
we can put it in his lease that he has to keep the property in the proper and maintain the order,
and have X amount of tires on there and then call me and say, whatever, for them to pick up those tires?
Yes, sir. We can implement that in all of these.
Yeah, we could do whatever y'all want.
We said please. I mean,
We'll be willing to do, whatever.
Yeah, because there's concern about the tires, we have a lot of tires, and a lot of these people come in and, they don't make it, and there's 400 or 500 tires, and the big tires, you're talking $10 a mile to go and drop them off over there at Fresca.
Yes, sir.
So that, if there would be an assurance, I guess, I'm thinking out loud, how the city council would think. But if you were assured that if it got down to around 50 tires, you guys could make him, force him to go and deliver them up to Montana. Because if he stays there and man, he's got 500 tires in 6 months, for him to get rid of them, now they cost $5,000 and he's gonna say,
Your problem.
my problem,
Yeah.
but I removed over 300 tires off that road when I first, and I honestly did. I constantly, pretty clean to clean it up and get it going again. And I didn't have any idea that it wasn't zoned or, I would look at that.
go ahead.
See, right now we're trying to clean the city.
Oh, absolutely, right?
And I know it doesn't look like it because it has a lot of dirt, tires, everything. But planning is always, everybody's trying to do their part to clean the city. So he comes and does that. And does it, and everything, well, it's not a.
Listen, I own many properties in the city, and all my properties are well maintained and clean. I mean, we take care of our properties, so we don't get
But I'm
this.
not talking about, talking about him.
Well, we're gonna make sure he takes care of it. We have to maintain the property, and we have to make sure he maintains it at our, you know, the way we want it maintained, and the way you would all like to maintain us. We're not-
How long would it take for you to implement this strategy right here, or this plan?
You know, my engineer, he couldn't make it today. His son's getting an operation, and he would be able to.
And I did notice it didn't have an engineer's stamp on anywhere on it.
It doesn't? Okay. He used to work for the city of El Paso. He's an engineer.
You know what I mean?
Excuse me?
You mean your engineer? You mean what else?
No, sir. Well,
Go ahead, Mr. Hill. First name, right?
We're discussing three different steps in this project. Number one, obviously, the rezoning. The rezoning, obviously, they need to provide some kind of evidence that what kind of improvements they're going to be implementing to mitigate the possible flooding. The second step, and that is before doing business, you need to implement the improvements. And after that, is actually the business itself. So that is the only way to ensure that they're going to be in compliance with the zoning classification. And after that, when everything is built, the business is going to be registered and obtain the permit.
So even if you approve tonight, that business is still out of compliance?
It's not in compliance because they need to.
They need to first do the improvements before. So you get your zoning, you have your reason now to evict the tenant. What was the three steps again?
For not giving us rent, we cannot just remake it, and it shows just that based on your part, I mean, good business sense, that if he is a problem, not paying rent, I mean, I don't know, just to me, I really did it, because I think the way it is now, he's working against you.
Well,
I understand what you're saying, but he did put some money into the property, he put some champagne and stuff, and he's asking me, you know, when we get a rezone, he put the fence up, and he says, you know, once we get a rezone, you start paying your rent. You know, he was under substance anytime I was at a zone, and not to defend him or anything, you know, but he did put some money in the property, and he's saying, you know, I'm gonna have to leave, and I'm not gonna get it anywhere to spend my money. But if you get a zone, you gotta start paying your rent again. But, you know, that's his.
I'd like to see a contract.
Well, we can certainly draw the lease and make that part of his lease.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it just seems like a lot of this is verbal.
But no, we have a lease with them.
I mean, but if it ends up, I mean, you could say you have a contract and a lease, but if it is a lease, all that you're saying.
What did I say it was?
Then you said that he's putting in money, so you're giving him a
Well, you can
raise.
see the property, that he put the fence up, and he put the gas. No, it doesn't say that, at least it was.
But this is a lot more.
Excuse me?
This is a
That's a
lot
lot more, yeah, we're gonna have to do this. Right,
Did you
right.
just, did you just bring part of it or the whole shaboodle?
Well, we don't, that whole area that's in the yellow.
That you got?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
What were those three steps again, Mr. Chairman? You said?
The rezoning, the implementation of the improvements, and the third one is the business registration. They're doing business without the two steps prior.
Mr. Wallace, go ahead. Mayor, one solution, if you're not happy with the way that the property is being occupied now, and you feel comfortable with these type of improvements in a business that would operate this way, is you could condition your rezoning upon the property being cleaned and brought into compliance with the existing zoning. And then once that happens, then you could take this matter up again. That would ensure that the property gets clean, that it gets put back in a situation where you can start with a clean slate. If you were to approve the zoning tonight without doing that, the zoning would be in place, and except for enforcing your nuisance ordinance and that type of thing, you could be stuck with the situation. So that's what you're confronted with. And I'm not trying to advocate against an appropriate use of the property. I'm just saying that unless you do something to assure that this happens, then you could be stuck with the situation that you have out there now, and be forced to utilize your nuisance ordinance. Well, you could also utilize you couldn't utilize your zoning regulations because you wouldn't have zoning for that purpose.
Mr. Gonzalez, how many tires did you see out there?
Oh, I,
Roughly. And were they scattered or were they stacked or?
the problem is there was traders also out there, so I think the permitting was the property just passed by. So I might saw probably about at least 40, but that's just without the obstruction, because there were obstructions like traders. So I wouldn't have an accurate estimate.
And I understand what you're saying, Mr. Wallace. But
And you could
take
prepare.
it into consideration, you know, that if anything was done in writing, you know, and they would give them the M1 today, and with certain conditions, you know, that if they don't comply, well, then it comes back down to your regular, and I think you all would comply, won't you, Mr. Mullen?
Yes, sir, we have to.
I mean, because it's very hard to put money into a property, you know, and not having the proper zoning. I mean, it's very hard for them to put several $100,000 worth of money into a property and not have the zoning.
Absolutely, and that is something that you can do by contract with them. But you need that contract and the terms of that contract before you, if you act on the zoning without those conditions in place, then you run the risk of having this guy out there. That's your situation. So I fully understand that. I understand that you know, that's close to a well-traveled highway. That's where you generally have this kind of zoning classification. It's your existing situation out there, and the prospect of having this and ensuring that this happens is what I'm concerned about.
Go ahead, Jason.
Well, I was going to say, maybe we can get them to talk with Mr. Soto and see what can be worked out, because at least for myself, I want to help you all out, but it's starting wrong to begin with, and as Mayor Gonzalez said, we have issues with tires strewn all over our canals and people that do. So we're very leery when this type of situation happens. I realize both sides now, including yourselves, were ignorant that we didn't have the proper zoning, so you both signed contracts, attended it yourselves, and now I realize you're also in a hard place because you made a commitment that you could have a tire shop there, and you're missing the zoning. But I think, or at least for myself, I'd like to help you out, but I do have the concerns of Mr. Wallace. You give the zoning now, and then in the future, you can say, forget you, and
Well, can I say something? If you give us a zoning, and they applied for a business to be there, do y'all just see what is zoned, you don't go check and see if it's, if it can be properly used as a business? That's just a question. I mean, I
But
don't.
if the city gave them a permit to operate,
Right, but do they go look at the site to see if it's not operable?
I sure as you
Not
don't know, not.
not proactive.
Do they have a permit from the city? Are they registered with the city?
I don't think so, that's what I'm asking, if they give it to.
Yeah.
No, you see, he would have come in and applied to register, you know, then our enforcers would have gone out there and checked the property to see if it was the property.
So that's what I'm saying, if we get it zoned right now, and then you all go check the property, if he wants to get a license to operate there, the property has to be in good condition for him to operate, right?
Right.
So what, can we get a zoning and with that condition that when he gets his license, to go check the property?
Well, I think what this council is trying to tell you is that they trust you, they don't trust your tenants. Really, that's what, I think that's what I'm hearing from these guys. You know, it's kind of hard for them, you know, and like the Rodriguez said, they're trying to feed the city and tires just you know. But of course, I understand your point of view as a businessman. I know you want to get it up and running. And if there was any way this council could help them in any way, and Jerry, you know, and first of all, Mr. Soto was the one that, you know, drew the contract with our attorney, you know, if they were to give you the zoning if you were to comply. And do what you say you're planning on doing.
We have no choice, we have to make the properties where we can get it usable. I mean, we can't use it now without having a zone. What's the property, what's the value of the property?
Oh, I know, I got plenty of those.
But, you know, it's in a good location, and it's good,